Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees from Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. These are our adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is our 70th session that we're calling Meeting in Kurukshetra. It's the 23rd session of the BHRAMARA-GITA. So we'll be speaking something today about the essence of friendship. Gauragraganya gana gocha goloduhadam Gauranga Gudatama Gopyata Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gadaratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Narayanam Namaskrityam Nadamschaiva Narotamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Vede Ramayaneschaiva Purane Vadate Tata Adavante Chamadye Chahari Sarvatra Giyate Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda He Madhava Padunga Luchi Makaranda Se Makaranda Panakori Anande Bolo Hari Hari Harinka Name Vandhavela Parikori Be Chakadola Se Chakadolanka Padaye Manamo Rahu Nirantare Manamo Nirantare Rahu Ha Krishna Boli Jiva Jao Ha Krishna Boli Jao Jiva Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava Moteu Dada Radha Dava. Hare Krishna. My name is Madhavananda Das. These are our adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. I think I'd better put this mic on. Hare Krishna. You can be able to hear me better now. My name is Madhavananda Das. We're live from Jagannath Puri Dham in Orissa. These are our daily adventures in Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we're on our 70th session we're calling Meeting in Kurukshetra, which is the 23rd session of the BHRAMARA-GITA. And we want to speak today about how respect is the essence of friendship. So in our last session we've been hearing from Srila Jiva Goswami's Gopal Campu, and we'll hear something more about that today from there, and how Srimati Radharani, she's been chastising Krishna through a bumblebee. And then at one point Jiva Goswami says there's a spurti, Krishna appears in the form of a spurti, or a sudden form. And then Radharani, then the bee leaves, and then Radharani begins to lament. And she feels, she takes on the mood of a Kalahantarita Naika, or a heroine who chastised, and they felt bad. Now, I've sent my friend away. And then Radharani begins to speak sweet words to the bumblebee. And she says, Jiva Goswami describes, Yaha Saha Kelati Sasaka Yasama Duka Priya Sapunaha Apiduke Sahavasi Yapriya Sakatam Sa Tu Brajati. That someone who, Kelati means to play, someone who plays with you, Sasaka, that's your friend. But someone, Samaduk, who experiences your suffering, he's Priya. That person's very dear. But Apiduke Sahabasi, someone who lives with you, Sahabasi, Basi means to live with, during your time of suffering. He doesn't leave you. That person, Priya Sakatam, that's a Priya Saka. And so in our last session we spoke something about different types of friends, and how Sanatana Goswami speaks about the Bhagavatam, and he says, Mad eka bandho, I have one friend, and that one real friend, and that friend is the Bhagavatam. But there's two types of Bhagavatams. There's the Grantha Bhagavat, and there's the Bhakta Bhagavat. And that person who speaks the Bhagavat, that person is also our friend, because he's giving us the Bhagavat. And we should make friends. We should make friends with Krishna. We should make friends with like-minded sadhus. Sayutan eva sangshrayat. Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We should take shelter only amongst like-minded devotees. Sajata yasya snigde sadhu sangha satovare. We want to associate with people who are, first of all, svajatiya. Svajatiya means in the same caste, literally. It means the same family, the same spiritual family. And who are snigdha, who are affectionate to me, who are sadhu, most important, who are more advanced than myself. Sadhu sangha sato vare. This is the association I should aspire for. And how that we should have an attitude. Guru sudhira sorida. Prahlad Maharaj says in 7th Canto, Guru sudhira sorida. We should have a firm attitude of friendship to Gurudev. So now let's go back to the Gopal Campu and Radharani's words to this bumblebee. So Radharani is speaking to the bee. She says, Kim iti manasi procha punar vachasi vaktaye pray. Kim iti manasi, in her mind, Radharani's thinking how fortunate she is. And vachasi vaktaye, she starts to speak something. She says, pray. Pray iti vadanteva mumurcha. Mumurcha means she becomes stunned in ecstasy. She started to say the word priyatama, and she said pray, and she lost consciousness, just thinking about Krishna. She's speaking in a dream, and she's thinking to herself, Hanta, Hanta. She's lamenting like anything, how did I send this bee away? Labda buddhi vilasi. She said, I've lost my intelligence. How can I repay this bee? This bee is coming. This is Radharani's unmadana. She's speaking in a kind of divine madness. I want to thank also the devotees who are watching today, Kalindi and Ananta Gauranga Prabhu and others. And I want to request the devotees at the end, if you have any reflections that you can share, what we're speaking about, what you liked or something that struck you, that would be very good. So Radharani goes on to speak to this bee. She's thinking, actually, this bee is so precious, how can I repay him? And this is her unmadana, or dibyonmada. Dibyonmada means divine madness. She's angry at one moment, and then she's lamenting at the next moment. This is a kalahantarita nayaka. When she chastises her beloved, and then he goes away, then she feels very bad. Oh, what did I do? This is a very bad thing. So then she laments, and she begins to speak in a sweet way to the bumblebee. And then she speaks another verse which helps us understand something more about the principles of friendship. Yat priyasakata bhagyas tasya dhanantasya nanyasa priyatama dutayato natan nalam kint ashivanchitam prichyami. That your real wealth, bhaga means wealth, yet priyasakata, to have a dear friend. What is that priyasaka? Again, there's three types of friendship, Radharani previously said. And one type of friend is just someone who plays with you. You have a friend you play with on the playground as a small child. That's a friend. But someone, samadukkha, who experiences your suffering. Oh, I feel so bad. I heard that your mother died, your wife died. I feel very, very bad for you. Someone who experiences your suffering and your happiness, samadukkha priya, that's a priyasaka. But someone who stays with you when you're going through your suffering, who's always with you, that person is a priyasaka. So now Radharani, Jiva Goswami describes, she goes on to further explain, yet priyasaka, this priyasaka, it's bhagya, that's my real tasya dhanam tasya nanyasya, that's my real dhana, that's my bhagya. My bhagya means my good fortune. My dhana means my real wealth. Tasya nan yasya, there's no other wealth that I have. Priyatama dutaya tutan. She says, but that wealth is not suitable to give it to do this bumblebee. So I'm going to ask the bee what the bee wants, because he's just a bee. But see, at the same time, mananiyo si me niga. In this 47th chapter, the 10th canto, we're reading from this statement appears in the 20th verse, and Jiva Goswami notes it in Gopal Campu, that Radharani says this thing, Mananiya asi me anga. I should give honor to you. I should address you as anga. Anga means part of my body. It means a very dear friend. I should give you this kind of respect. And this is a very, very important principle today. Radharani, she goes on to explain what she means. Yadyapi mitram nirupadi. Nirupadi. That such a friend, nirupadi means that there's no designations. Kashana kashyapi santatam bhavati tat api sada parittarpya sahi nahi bhina swata parisvarati. That person, he's a duty, I should honor him, but he's not an unconditional friend. Still, we should try to respect that person. He's not an unconditional friend because sahi nahi bina. Bina means non-different. He doesn't consider himself non-different from himself. So this bumblebee has this fault. But still, Radharani says, in spite of that fault, mananiya asi me anga, that I should honor you, I should give respect to you. This is culture. Respect is the essence of friendship. And in the school of respect, the first lessons are trust and faith. Those are the foundations of the school of respect. We hear in the 31st chapter, the 28th chapter of the third canto, the Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila Dev speaking to his mother about relationships and about how people behave toward others. In the 21st verse, he says, Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma vaishtita sada tam avagyaya mam nritya kurute ncha vidambamam. That Lord Kapila Dev is saying to his mother, Aham sarveshu bhuteshu. I am in all living entities. Bhuta Atma, I am the super soul of all living entities. Avashtita, you should understand that I'm situated. Avashtita Sada, I'm always situated there in everyone. So if someone, avagyaya, avagyaya means to look down. Do you look down on some other person? This person's not good, they're not initiated. Or this person, it's a Mataji. We don't give respect to Matajis. We give respect to sannyasis and brahmacharis. We don't give respect. It's a child. We don't give respect to a child. Or, oh my God, it's a karmi. It's a meat eater. We have all kinds of terms sometimes in our society which we use in a very cheap kind of way. All Babajis are Sahajiyas. All people in the line of Shankaracharya, they're Mayavadis. But Sridhar Swami, many people say that he was in the line of Shankaracharya, and indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, Prabhupada notes, in the line of Shankaracharya. So it's not so cut and dried that just because someone belongs to this particular institution that we should give them a title, even a title like Mayavadi, or a title like Sahaja, or another title we use very cheaply is Karmi. And karmi just means anyone who's working hard. And sometimes even, it used to be they would call devotees karmis if they're working a job or something. Oh, he's just a karmi. He's not living in the temple. But at the root of this attitude is a lack of respect. Avagyaya. Avagyaya again means, ava means down. It means looking down on somebody. It means that I'm appointed myself as the judge of this person. And it's a fascinating thing. In Vrindavan, they don't do that. Sometimes we think that great Vaishnavas means that, oh, now I have the ability, I've read all of Prabhupada's books, and because I've read all of Prabhupada's books, now I can tell who's bona fide and who's not bona fide. But if you've read all of Srila Prabhupada's books, then you'll know that Srila Prabhupada, in the 9th canto, the Bhagavatam, he says in his purport, see if I can find that real quick, it's a beautiful statement. In 9th canto, chapter 13, text 11, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be seen or unseen according to his own transcendental desire. Similarly, a devotee being Jivan Mukta can be seen or not as he chooses. So you can't tell who's a great Vaishnava. If you see someone and they're hanging out in a really dirty, nasty place that smells really terrible, you might think, this is not a devotee. But maybe his name is Gaura-Kishore Das Babaji. He's such an exalted person. Or what to speak, oh my God, if you see someone who's smoking, but that may be Vamsidas Babaji, who is such a great personality, and he was inviting Krishna, you come, you want to have a little smoke with me? And Krishna was coming. You can't recognize him. Now what to speak if it's a non-vegetarian Vaishnava? Oh my God, if someone eats meat, that's the end. That person can't be a good person. But you're trying to appoint yourself as drashta. Drashta means the seer. Drashta means the one who's to be seen. You can't see who's who. We may think that, oh, someone's not a vegetarian, they can't be a devotee. But then what about Garuda? Garuda eats snakes. Garuda eats turtles. He's a non-vegetarian Vaishnava. And in fact, he's such a great Vaishnava. He's the carrier of Lord Vishnu, and sometimes the carrier of Krishna also. He's such a great personality. So the greatest authority in the world, Srimati Radharani, she's teaching us the principles of friendship through her discussion with this bumblebee. And one such principle is that we should give respect to everyone. And we should appreciate this person. She's appreciating a bumblebee. From one consideration, a bumblebee is not exactly the most elevated personality in the world. Once Srila Prabhupada was sitting in his room in Los Angeles, and he rang his bell, which would call for his servant. The servant came running into the room and offered obeisances. And Prabhupada pointed at the floor, and he said, there, do you see that little insect? And the devotee had to look for a moment. He couldn't see the insect. Prabhupada said, no, it's just right there. Prabhupada said, please take him out. I think he's hungry. He looks very weak. Srila Prabhupada is giving respect to an insect. Once a devotee said, Prabhupada, we have mice. We have to kill them. Prabhupada said, better you die than the mice. That's a very difficult thing. We had some flood recently here, and some mice have also taken shelter in our ashram. And we can be friends with them, but the problem is they're not very sattvic, and they like to eat your cloth. What to speak of any boga you keep around, and they pass stool everywhere, and they climb on the altar, and they go all over the place. So we have to try to politely ask them to go, and you have to figure out some other way. But we should be respectful. Avagya, avagya means you look down on someone. Adambanam, this in the same verse, Lord Kapila says, Richa vidambanam. Adambanam means that you become more and more pretentious, that you lose your simplicity, you lose your simple heart. And this comes because you start thinking, I'm the seer of other people. And when you start thinking you're the seer, then it becomes avagya. Ava, looking down. Agya means to give respect, but your respect is looking down. I'm above you and I'm looking down on you. But we don't see this in the case of great souls. A wonderful example is in the assembly of Maharaj Kurukshetra there on the bank of the Ganga. When Shukadev Goswami showed up, he didn't have the best choice of dress. In fact, he didn't have any clothes on at all. He wasn't the most senior person. He was 16 years old. He was naked. And in that assembly was some of the greatest rishis in the world. In that assembly was his father, Srila Vyasadeva, and his father's guru, Narad Muni. But everyone gave more respect to Shukadeva Goswami, even though he's just a naked little boy. They didn't practice this avagya, this looking down, because they see the criterion is how much bhakti that person has. And that's a progressive society. So Lord Kapila he's explaining this to his mother. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu. You should understand, a learned person sees that I'm in the heart of all living entities. But if you don't see that, you make some difference, then you begin to have this avagyaya, this attitude of looking down at people, and then that turns into vidambana. Vidambana means some imitation. You're imitating something, but actually you're practicing by vidambana means imitation. Adambana means that you're becoming more and more pretentious. You're doing this imitation. You lose your simplicity because you have to put on a show. How can you be simple? How can you be honest? How can you just tell people in public that look, I have so many faults. How can I do that? I have so many people watching my katha, right? We have so many people coming and addressing us as a big person. And so then we think, well, I better that I hide my faults. And indeed, it's a fact. It's better that you don't talk about your problems, your materialistic attachments and things in a public way, because it's not going to help the assembly of sadhus and Vaishnavas. We speak about that in private with someone who's a sadhu. My Guru Maharaj used to say that Krishna likes confessions, and we should confess to Gurudev. We should confess to sadhu. We should reveal our heart to them. Not just to any person, but someone we see who is more advanced. But with other persons, don't falsely present yourself in a way that you're not. When they asked Srila Prabhupada, can you see Krishna? Prabhupada said, yes. Once there was a newspaper reporter who was interviewing Prabhupada and said, can you directly see Krishna? And Prabhupada was saying yes. And one of the senior devotees who was there tried to explain to the newspaper reporter, well, he sees in a kind of philosophical way, he understands that Krishna. Prabhupada interrupted and said, no, I directly see Krishna just as I see you. Prabhupada directly said that. That's his simplicity. That's his honesty. I'm not like that. I directly see Maya all the time. So better let me be honest with that and express who I am. But as Srimati Radharani is teaching us, she's the greatest authority. She says to this bumblebee, Manaya asi me anga. That you're my friend, I'm going to give you respect. Mananiya means some respect. Why am I giving you respect? Because you're coming with the message of Krishna. And I'm giving respect to the message. Even though you're just a bumblebee and you're very flirtatious, you're coming and glorifying me and then you go away. You're not very steady in your service and your behavior. You're very unreliable. As Radharani says in one place, you're the unreliable friend of an unreliable master. She's chastising him. But you're coming with this message from my Krishna. And therefore, I'm going to give respect to you. Therefore, in the Sattvata Tantra, it says that Hari Lila Satochara Pareshu Satatam Tvaya Karya Pritistavahare Yata Bhakta Nanashiti. We should learn to love devotees. It's not that you have to judge them and decide, oh, this is a pure devotee, but the person is speaking pure Krishna Katha, then I give respect. The person is always doing kirtan, I give respect. The person is always doing service. They did so many amazing things for Srila Prabhupada. I don't know what platform they're on. Maybe they have problems. Some devotees have had problems. They've fallen down to illicit sexual behavior. Sometimes there was one sannyasi who used to smoke cigarettes at one time. But we respect their message that they're giving. We respect their service that they're giving. And that's such an important thing. If we start looking down on them, oh, this is a fallen Vaishnava, and because they're fallen, I have the right to look down on them. Then from that avagya comes adambana. You become more and more pretentious, and from that pretentiousness comes upeksha. Upeksha is practiced by the madhyam adhikari. Upeksha means that you neglect someone who's dvisatsu. Dvisatsu means they're envious. But that neglect means I don't criticize them. I just keep away from them. I'm neither respectful nor disrespectful. That's what neglect means. But in this case, from avagya, looking down, comes a dambana. You become more and more pretentious. Then upeksha, you become arrogant. You become disrespectful. And you can't give respect to someone because they're a sannyasi. They may be a great sannyasi, they may not be a great sannyasi. I had one friend I used to live with, and he'd taken sannyas, I think, last I heard, I think it was 4 times. And he kept going back to his wife or going back to some other woman, and then again he would take sannyas. But I always gave him respect. Not because I appreciated his behavior, but because he's a sannyasi. And I respect that saffron cloth. I respect what it stands for. And whatever renunciation that I saw in him, I gave respect to that renunciation. Because we see Krishna in the heart of all living entities. And Srimati Radharani, she's showing us she's being respectful to a bumblebee. And this is the nature of the Brijbasis. When the most terrible, heinous, demoniac monster came to Braj in the form of Putana, who liked to eat the flesh of dead babies. She liked to kill the babies, but she came in the dress of a Vaishnavi. She came dressed up like a devotee. At that time, the Brijbasis, they said, oh, we should give respect to her. She looks like a great devotee. And she asked them, are there any new babies here? I'd like to see. Yes, Yashoda just gave birth. Oh, I'd like to see that baby. And she went to the house of Nanda Maharaj. And Yashoda and Rohini gave respect to Putana and brought her inside. They weren't so sophisticated. They didn't have this attitude of avagya looking down. Oh, don't you know I'm the mother of Krishna? I'm a resident of Vrindavan. My husband's the king of Braj. Everybody gives respect to me, so who are you? And they weren't trying to judge them. They weren't acting as the seer, they were acting as themselves to be the seen. Oh, you want to do service for Krishna? Yes, please come. There he is. You can give your breast to him. And Putana had poison on her breast. They didn't have this attitude of avagya. They didn't have this attitude of adambanam. They didn't have this attitude of apeksha. They were respectful to everyone. When Vatsasura, this great demon friend of Kamsa, came to kill Krishna and Balaram, he came in the guise of a calf. And the boys were respectful. Oh, it's a cow. We should give respect to a cow. When Pralambasura came and entered into the assembly of Krishna, at that time, Jiva Goswami says that Krishna addressed him, Yo, Bhadra! Bhadra is an auspicious way to address a friend who's come. It means there's some glorious person. And all the boys, they thought, oh, this is must be a really good boy. Krishna's great devotee. Even Balaram thought like that. But it was a demon. Actually, Bhadra has several different meanings. One meaning is, it's an auspicious way to address a senior person, a respected person, affectionate kind of a respectful address. But Bhadra also means an actor. Someone who's acting like something they're not. And Bhadra also means some duplicitous person. So Krishna's saying several things at the same time. This is called parokshavad. Paroksha means you say one thing but you mean another thing. But the boys are so simple. And what is their simplicity? Their simplicity is they depend on Krishna. Our simplicity is our Krishna consciousness. When we're Krishna conscious, we depend on Krishna. Then you don't have to be the judge of everyone. But Krishna will whisper in your heart, there's something wrong. You can give respect to them, it's a devotee. But there's something wrong here. Don't associate closely with this person. And we stay away. But if we practice avagya, we look down on people. Then adambana comes. You start becoming pretentious. You lose your simplicity. And this attitude of arrogance starts coming more and more in your heart. So then you come to the point of upeksha. You start being arrogant and disrespectful. Then ashraddha. You lose your faith. You should give respect to anyone who's chanting the holy name. Krishneta yashagari tvam manasadhyeta. Dikshasti chet pranati bishcha bhajantamisham. Rupa Goswami says in Upadeshamrita. Anyone who chants Krishna's name, I give respect in my mind. Manasādhyeta. But anyone who has diksha, dikshashti chet pranati bish, bhajantam Isha, who's doing bhajan Isha, they're worshipping Isha, Krishna, the Ishvara. Then pranati, I offer my obeisances to that person. But you may say, but that person's a bogus person. They were a child molester. Oh my God. How can you respect a child molester? It's a problem. How can you do both things? Rupa Goswami is saying, someone who has second initiation, I should offer obeisances to them. But what if they're doing some terrible, terrible thing like that? We don't give them a social position. But I can give respect and offer obeisances. They have problems, but there's some good qualities in them. And we keep that faith. Keep that faith in the holy name. We keep faith in the worship of the deity. But when you start going down the road of avagya, you're looking down on people, and you come to a dambana, you lose your simplicity, you come then to apeksha, you become arrogant and disrespectful, then you come to a shraddha. You lose your faith. You lose your faith in chanting the holy name. Yes, he's chanting Hare Krishna, but the guy did so many bad things. How can I give respect? Our respect is given to the holy name. There's so many bad people in this world, but maybe the worst person in the world, but if they're chanting the holy name, I can give some respect to them. And that's a symptom of my shraddha. But if you lose that shraddha, you lose that shraddha, then the next stage is dvesha. You start having some hatred. And then you live alone. You go away from the devotees. You start thinking that everybody's against you. You start thinking there's a great conspiracy. It's Bill Gates. It's this and that. You start becoming hatred of certain people. And then comes the next stage of ninda, where you start openly criticizing everyone. And that's the worst stage. You drink that ninda rasa, the nectar of ninda, and that ninda, that criticism becomes their life. They appoint themselves as a judge of others. And they destroy everything. This is the nature of a Kanishta Adhikari. Archayam eva haraye pujam yashadayayate natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smita. This is a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic devotee. Archayam eva haraye. They give respect to Krishna. Pujam yashadayayate. They have faith, shraddha, in doing that puja to the deity, but natad bhakteshu, chanyeshu. They don't have faith in the devotees. Chanyeshu means other people. They can't give respect to them. Respect is a principle of friendship. Radharani is giving respect to a bumblebee. Srila Prabhupada is giving respect to a small insect. That respect is the essence of our friendship. Indradyumna Maharaj tells a story that once he got on an airplane, and sitting next to him was a couple, an old man and an old woman. And they asked him, well, where are you going? Oh, we're going to California. This is like, I think he said it was our 50th wedding anniversary. They've been married for 50 years. And Indradyumna Maharaj asked him a very good question. He said, how have you managed? How have you managed to stay together for so many years? Is it love? And they said, no, it's none of that romance stuff. But we always respected each other. If you don't give respect, but you have some so-called love, you love a woman, you love a man, or you love a friend, but you're not giving them respect, then that's false friendship. It's false love. It's kaitaba. It's cheating. It's not real love for that woman, it's just lust. Because you don't give respect for that person. But real love, the basis of that real love is respect. The basis of your friendship with your best friend is that respect, that I care about you, I appreciate you, I value you. Madhvacharya, in his commentary on this verse, which speaks about the Kanishta Adhikari in the 11th canto, Archayam eva hariye, that I was just citing, in his commentary, Madhvacharya says that a Madhyam Adhikari, he's an intermediate devotee, he sees Krishna everywhere. And therefore he offers his love to the devotee. And because of that, he can be a sincere friend of other devotees. And because of that, he's merciful to the ignorant. And because of that, he avoids the dvisatsu, or the persons who have this dualistic vision, who think this is my friend, this is my enemy, and he avoids them. But Jiva Madhvacharya says, Tad vasatam na janati sarvasya jagato pitu. That the Madhyamadikari, his realization about Krishna, who's all-pervading, is imperfect. But he does have a general sense that everyone is meant to ultimately be a devotee. And so that Madhyamadikari tries to use everything in the service of Krishna. He's aware, at least theoretically, that everything belongs to the Lord. But that Madhyamadikari is still in a dangerous position. He may be bewildered by association with atheistic persons. And Madhva Goswami say, Archameva samstitam, Vishnum gyatva tad anyatra, naiva janati ya puman. He speaks about the Kanishta. That a Kanishta Adhikari has no idea that the Lord, it's not even possible for him to live outside my church or my temple. I remember hearing a Bhagavatam class from a devotee in one big temple, and it happened to be the anniversary of the establishment of ISKCON. And in his class, he was saying that unless you're a member of ISKCON, you can't go back to Godhead. You can't be a devotee. And I remember some devotees were very disturbed by that. And somebody said, well, what about Prabhupada's godbrothers? Prabhupada said some of his godbrothers went back to Godhead. And he said, no, it's not true. They didn't go back to God. And he just very stubbornly refused to acknowledge that. So if you're thinking that only someone who's an ISKCON is a devotee, that's a Kanishta Adhikari. If you're thinking that only someone who's a Vaishnava, maybe they're not an ISKCON, they might be in Gaudiya Math, or they might be a Sri Vaishnava, or in the Madhva line, or some other line, but we can respect them. But this other guy, he's a Shaivite. Or this other guy is a Christian. They're a Muslim. I know devotees who have very bad attitude toward Muslims. But Madhvacharya says, this is the nature of a Kanishta Adhikari, Archamiva Samstitam. He thinks that Samstitam, that the devotee can only be established in my church, in my temple. Sometimes even I've seen ISKCON devotees, they think that my temple is the best temple. Sometimes when we were young devotees, we had a competition between the LA temple and the New York temple. Which was the best? We were Sankirtan devotees, and we were always competing with New York, see who could do the best. And my temple's the best temple. That's the nature of a Kanishta Adhikari. You may have some competition out of love for Srila Prabhupada, but don't think that your temple is the best temple, is the only temple, and someone can't be a devotee unless they're in my church, in my temple. And Madhvacharya goes on to say, Atmano Bhakti Darpata, that if the Kanishta Adhikari is so puffed up by his doing his ceremonial worship, he's waving the incense, and I get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, and I wake the deities, and I do the artik, and I do all these ceremonies, but the result of that is, he starts looking down at other people. That's the nature of the Kanishta Adhikari. So he can't understand. He's not aware. Because from that avagya, again comes a dambana. He starts becoming duplicitous. He loses his simplicity. Then upeksha. He starts being disrespectful to people. And then ashraddha, he loses his faith. And which comes dvesha then. He becomes hatred. Hateful of devotees even. I can't live with the devotees. They're all bad. All the ISKCON devotees are bad. And then ninda comes. They start openly criticizing everyone else. So this is a nature of a Kanishta Adhikari. They have this false pride. They start criticizing, Madhvacharya says, more advanced devotees of the Lord. They neglect them. They have no understanding of their exalted position as preachers or completely self-realized souls. The Kanishta Adhikari, Madhvacharya says, that he's infatuated when he sees the material qualifications of so-called great materialistic men. Oh, this guy has a nice car. This guy has a big house. And he says, of course, I don't need that. I'm a devotee. I'm very simple. But, Prabhu, if I go in a cheap car, if I show up in a Volkswagen Bug, who's going to give respect? So I need to have I don't know, what's a fancy car, a Volvo or a Mercedes-Benz. I need to have a big fancy car. Then they'll give respect to me. Remember, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he arrived at Radhakund, he arrived in Braj riding in a fancy car. And he was wearing a suit, and the brahmacharis with him was wearing a suit. That's how we show how great we are. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was doing that because he saw these materialistic persons, that they wouldn't give respect, otherwise they wouldn't listen. But the nature of the Kanishta is, he's thinking all this wealth, this position's a big thing. I remember shortly after I joined ISKCON, somebody told me, you should think about your career in ISKCON. What do I want to think about my career for? I didn't come for a career. I came to do Nam Bhajan. I came to do Seva, Guru Seva. That's why I've come, not to think about a career. But the Kanishta Adhikari is very, very impressed. So this person has this position. And that's why we have some hierarchy. That's why we have a GBC. It's why we have sannyasis. We have temple presidents. Because there has to be some respect given. But the nature of the Kanishta is they only give respect when someone has that position. You may have a great self-realized devotee who's a Premi Bhakta, but if that Premi Bhakta is in the body of a woman, some Vaishnavas won't give as much respect to her as they will to a sannyasi, even though that sannyasi may be like Ramachandra Puri, who is always criticizing all the devotees. How can I give respect to, they may say, to Ramananda Roy? He's a grihastha, and I saw he's massaging the bodies of naked girls. Oh my God, it's a scandal. But this Ramachandra Puri, he's very strict. I can give respect to him. That's the symptom of a Kanishta Adhikari. And Srimati Radharani is saying, don't think like that. Be respectful of a bumblebee. Because a bumblebee is coming with Krishna's message. So this is a nature, this is a symptom of a Vaishnav. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he sings in his Chaitanya Bhagavat, Aise Vaishnava Dharma Sabare Pranati, Se Dharma Dvajija Iti Nahi Rati, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Aise Vaishnava Dharma. This is the Dharma. Dharma here means the intrinsic nature. The Dharma of chini or sugar is to be sweet. The Dharma, the nature of fire, is to be hot, garam. That's its intrinsic quality. So the intrinsic quality of a Vaishnava is sabare pranati. They give respects to everyone. That's the nature of a Vaishnava, and therefore they can really be friends with everyone. But say Dharmadvaji. There's this other fellow who's a Dharmadvaji. Dharmadvaji means a false devotee. It means a hypocrite. The word literally means, dvaja means a flag. So the Dharmadvaji is waving the flag of Dharma. He's showing off. What a great person. But jada iti nahi rati. He has no attachment. Nahi rati. Rati means attachment. Nahi means without. He has no attachment to giving respect to everyone. He thinks he's the judge of everyone else. And this is a great fault. We can't see who's a devotee, who's not a devotee. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he once said in one article, unless one develops faith, and this is the fault of this avagya, when you start looking down at people, then as a few steps down the road, you lose your faith, even in the holy name. Bhaktisiddhanta says, unless you develop faith, you can't see a pure devotee or the Supreme Lord, and you'll simply do three things. If you have no faith, here's what's going to happen to you. You're cursed. You're going to be involved in envious, violent, or blasphemous activities. That's what you're going to do if you don't have faith. So this faith is such an important thing, and that faith, a basis of it is respect. We should give respect to all living entities. How can we give respect? Because I have some faith. I have some faith in the holy name. I see this person is chanting, and I don't have this attitude of looking down on them. Rather, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings in one beautiful song in Kalina Kalpataru. Kabe mue Vaishnave chinibo Hari Hari. Kabe mue Vaishnave chinibo Hari Hari. Kabe mui means when. When will that day come? When Vaishnava chinibo. When I can appreciate, when I can understand who the Vaishnavas are. Vaishnava charana Kolyane rakani mati bohi doye dori. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram. Kabe mui Vaishnave chinibo Hare Hare. When will that day come? And when I recognize the Vaishnavas, then I'm going to grab their feet. I'm going to put them on my heart. I'm going to be completely ecstatic. Vaishnava Thakura Prakrita Sada Nirdosha Ananda Moya. Krishna Nami Priti Jodi Udasina Jibete Doyadra Hoya. Kabe Mui Vaishnave chinibo Hari Hari. Then you'll appreciate the Vaishnava. You'll treat the Vaishnava like Thakur. Thakur means someone who's a landowner. Thakur means someone who takes care of other people. That's the Vaishnava. The Vaishnavas take care of everyone because they're always chanting the holy name. And the Vaishnavas aprakrita sada. They're always non-material. As long as they're chanting the holy name, don't see any fault in them. Nirdosha Ananda Moya. Nirdosha Bhaktivinoda says they have no dosha, no fault. Ananda Moya. They're always happy. This is the nature of a Vaishnava. Krishna Name Priti. They have so much affection for the holy name. Udasina. They're aloof from matter. Jibete doyadr hoy. And they're very merciful to the conditioned souls. The Vaishnava, he goes on to describe, Abhimanahina bhajanena prabhina bishayite anasakta antara bahire niskapata sada nichalila anurakta kabe mui Vaishnave chinibo Hari Hari. Abhimanahina. He has no abhiman, no pride. Bhajana prabhina, he's very prabhina, very expert in bhajan. And what does that expertise mean? Not that he knows how to play harmonium in 10 different tunes, but prabhina means he knows how to give respect. Because that respect, amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. That's expertise that you can chant always because you're being respectful to everyone. As Radharani is teaching us to be respectful even to a bumblebee. And bishayete anasakta. Because of that, because he has no abhiman, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his commentary on the 3rd verse in Shikshashtakam, he says that these are the symptoms of someone who is chanting the holy name properly. They have no abhiman. And Bishayati Anasakta, they're not attached. Anasakta, Sakta means attached. Anasakta, they're not attached to Bishayi, to material sense gratification. Antara Bahire, what's on the inside is the same as on the outside. Niskapata Sada, they're always simple. There's no kapatya. There's no duplicity in them. Sada, always. Nitya Lila Anurakta, they're always attached to Krishna's pastimes. This is a Vaishnava. Kanishta Madhyama Uttama Prabhedi Vaishnava Tribhida Gani Kanishta Dara Madhyame Pranati Uttame Shushusha Shuni Kabe Mui Vaishnave Chinibo Hari Hari Kabe Mui Vaishnave Chinibo Hari Hari Kanishta Madhyama Uttama Prabhedi Vaishnava Tribeda Jani Gani. I'm going to give proper respect to all different types of Vaishnavas. This is a very, very important principle. We give respect, Krishneti Yashagaritam Manasadayeta, in my mind, to anyone who chants. Dikshasi Pranati Bishya Bhajantam Isham. I offer obeisances to anyone who has second initiations worshipping the deity. But the Uttam Vaishnava, Nindadi Shunyarhida Mipsita Sangha Labdya. That Vaishnava who is expert in bhajan and Nindadi Shunyarhida. His heart is free from Ninda. He doesn't go there. He doesn't consider himself to be the judge of others. He's not looking down on others. He doesn't become arrogant then. He doesn't start neglecting other people. He can give respect to everyone. He doesn't lose his faith. And such a person doesn't go to Ninda. Nindada Shunya. Hridam Ipsita Sangha Labdya. Sangha Labdya. That's the association I want. So Bhaktivinoda says, the Kanishta Adhara. The Kanishta, I give respect, Adhara, to them. The Madhyama Pranati, I offer obeisances to them. But the Uttam, Uttame Shushusha Suni, I want to hear from that person. I want to worship that person. Jejana Vaishnava Chiniya Lohiya Adara Kori Bojabe Vaishnavera Kripa Jahe Sarvasiddhi Abhashya Paibo Tabe Kabe Mui Vaishnave Chinibo Hari Hari Kabe Mui Vaishnava Chinibo Hari Hari. When can I see the Vaishnavas? When can I appreciate who's a Kanisha, who's a Madhyam, who's an Uttam? It's very important. Jejane Vaishnava Chiniya Loya. Understanding who the Vaishnavas are. Chiniya means to understand and know. Then, Adara Koribe Jabe. Then I'll be able to give all respect to those Vaishnavas. And by doing that, Vaishnavera Kripa, I'll get the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And Jahi Sarvasiddhi, then I'll get perfection. I'll get everything. Abhashya Paibi Tabi. Abhashya means you can't stop it. It'll definitely happen. If I give respect to all the Vaishnavas properly, then I'll get their mercy. Vaishnava Charitra Sarvada Pavitra Jai Ninde Himsa Kori Bhakati Vinoda Nasambasitare Take Sadamona Dori Kabe Mui Vaishnave Chinibo Hari Hari Kabe Mui Vaishnave Chinibo Hari Hari. When will I be able to recognize the Vaishnavas? Vaishnava Charita Sarvada Padvitra. When will I give respect to all the Vaishnavas properly? Deho Nata Jata Jata. Bhaktivinoda says in another song. According to their position. If I see they're materialistic, then I neglect it. I practice upeksha. It doesn't mean I neglect that person. Doesn't mean I won't be friends with that person. Bhaktivinoda explains in Jiva Dharma. I may give them food to eat. I may let them stay in my house. But what it means is I don't speak Krishna Katha with them. What it means is I don't become very intimate with them. But still I give respect. I can be something of their friend. As Radharani says, the first type of friend is someone who just plays with you. I play with them in kirtan. I dance with them in the kirtan. We play together in service. That's my friend. But it's not someone who's so deep. Someone who's a deep friend is a person who understands samaduk. They take on my duk, my unhappiness. That's a priya. That's someone very dear. But the priya saka, the dearmost friend, is someone who comes and lives with you. Oh Prabhuji, I've heard you have this problem. No one's here to cook for you. You have a broken knee. Oh, let me come, let me stay with you. That's a very dear friend. And this is a friendship we want to offer to the Vaishnavas. So Bhaktivinoda says, Vaishnava Charita Sarvada Pavitra. I want to see the Vaishnavas as being always pure. Jai Ninda Hingsa Kori. I'm not going to do this Ninda, which is just Hingsa, it's violence. I'm not going to do that. Rather, Bhakatibinoda nasambasitari takisadamonadori. I'm always going to be quiet. When there's all this nonsense going on and people are criticizing this person and that person, I'm going to be quiet. So I want to finish Madhurena Samarpa yet with something sweet, with one of my favorite stories. This is from the life of Ramanujacharya. Then on one occasion they had gone, there was a deity procession of deity of Lord Ranganath. And everybody had come out in the city to see the Lord, and they were offering prayers, and the Brahmins were chanting mantras. And in the midst of all those people, they saw one very muscular man next to a beautiful girl. And that muscular man was holding an umbrella over her head with one hand, and the other hand he was fanning her, right in front of the deity of Lord Ranganath, the Vijay Vigraha, the Utsav deity. He was worshipping this woman, and all the people were laughing at him. And when Ramanuja saw that he didn't laugh, he felt very, very sad. That's the nature of a friend. And he told one of his disciples, you bring that man over. And he called him over. He said, what's your name? He said, oh, my name is Dhanardas. Dhanardas means literally the servant of the bow, the servant of fighting, the servant of wrestling. He's a wrestler. I said, what are you doing? Don't you know everybody's laughing at you? And that Dhanardas is a very simple person. He said, Maharaj, you're a sadhu. I respect you. He said, but let me tell you honestly, this girl is the most beautiful person, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And therefore, I'm holding an umbrella over her head and I'm fanning her. She's so beautiful. And Ramanuja said, if I could show you someone even more beautiful, would you worship that person instead? Yes. And then Ramanuja took him inside the temple and showed him the original deity of Ranganath. They had the Vijay Vigraha outside. And when Dhanardas saw, and he was coming in the Sangha with Ramanujacharya, so he was seeing through the eyes, so to speak, of Ramanuja by being with him. He could appreciate something of the same appreciation that Ramanuja had. So Dhanardas became a devotee. And he married that beautiful girl. They became grihastas. And Ramanujacharya, he liked that Brahman, that Dhanardas so much that when he would go to take bath, he would put his arm, Ramanuja was getting old at that time, and he would walk to take bath in the Kaveri River. He would put his hand on the arm of one of the Brahmin disciples. And then he would go and take his bath. And now after he's become clean, and he's going to come back to do his puja, he would put his hand on the arm of Dhanardas. Dhanardas, who's a wrestler. He's not a big Brahmin. And these Brahmachari disciples who were there, they were a little unhappy. They couldn't say anything, but they think, this is not right. How our Guru Maharaj is giving so much respect to this wrestler, and he's so attached to this woman. It's terrible. I mean, they were like Russian brahmacharis. Very, very intense. So Ramanuja could understand their mentality. So he decided to teach them a lesson. To appreciate the proper character of a Vaishnava, and to help them understand that you're not the seer. You're not the drashta. You're not the seer. Rather, drishta, you should be seen. So one night, while everybody was sleeping, Ramanuja got up. The brahmacharis, they're very simple. They only had 2 dhotis. They wash one of them every day, and they hang them up to dry. So Ramanuja went, and he tore off a piece of cloth, about this big, about the size of a kopin, from the cloth of the brahmacharis. And so then the next morning, when the brahmacharis got up, they said, hey, who tore my dhoti? Huh? Who's the rat? And they said, I think you did it. And they started quarreling amongst themselves. And finally, they were going to get in a big fight. Ramanuja had to come to, hey, did he, calm down. It's okay. It's just a piece of cloth off your dhoti. Yeah, but now my dhoti doesn't look so good. It's not so long. It's okay. Be detached. That night, Ramanuja called several of his disciples to him. He said, I want to speak with you about Dhanardas. And I've observed this Dhanardas, actually he's just an attached householder. He's just really, really attached to his wife, and he's acting like a great devotee. So I want to show, actually, his position. And they were saying, yes, Guru Maharaj, we also noticed the same thing. He's just a bogus fellow. They liked it very much. Ramanuja was not speaking what he really felt, but he was speaking in this way because that's what they felt. And when they heard him speaking like this, they said, yes, Guru Maharaj, we've also noticed he was such a rascal. So then Ramanuja told him, said, tonight I want you to go and ask him to come here and speak with me. And I'll have a long talk with him. We'll speak some things about Shastra and that. And while he's speaking with me, you go to his house. His wife will be asleep. He's so attached to his wife, he's always giving all kinds of valuable ornaments and things to her. And the brahmachari said, yeah, we noticed that. Instead of spending money on the deity and on Gurudev, he's buying all these ornaments for his wife. He's just an attached person. He's not really a devotee. Ramanuja said, yes, that's really bad. So you go there, and while she's asleep, her name was Himamba. Himamba's sleeping, you take all the ornaments from her. Yes, Guru Maharaj, very good plan. And then he said, then I want you to watch outside the window what happens after those ornaments are gone and when Dhanurdas comes back. Yes, Guru Maharaj, we're going to do this thing. So then they went and they told Dhanurdas, Guru Maharaj wants to see you. And so Dhanurdas was very excited and happy. He went to speak with his Guru Maharaj Ramanuja. And then the brahmacharis very quietly went into the house and they found that his wife, Himamba, was laying there asleep. Now actually, that woman wasn't sleeping. She was chanting Krishna's names in her mind. She was thinking about the deity. She was a great devotee. Her husband was a great devotee. And all of a sudden she noticed some brahmacharis had come into the room. And she thought, oh, maybe they're coming to because they don't have enough money. They're coming to steal something. Why else would someone sneak into your house, right, while you're asleep? So she thought, this is our chance to do some service. So let me lay here very quietly and act like I'm asleep and they can steal whatever they want. They came and they started taking the earring off her ear. And the nupur, the bracelet, the ankle bracelet off her foot, and all the different ornaments on one side of her body. And she was very happy. This is very good. Now we're getting to donate something to these nice brahmacharis. And so she thought, let me roll over in my sleep so they can get the ornaments on the other side. So she acted like she was asleep, and she rolled over, and the brahmacharis became frightened, and they ran away. And so then they went to the window and they were watching to see what had happened. So finally, when Dhanurdas came back, he came into the house, and he saw his wife laying there, and she has ornaments on one side of her body and not on the other side. And she had a kankana. Kankana means a bracelet. She had a kankana on one side, but not on the other side. She had a nupur, an ankle bracelet on one side, but not on the other side. She had one earring, but not an earring on the other side. So when Dhanurdas saw that, he asked his wife, what are you doing? Why are you decorated only on one side? And she explained, these brahmacharis came and they must have really needed money. And then they came and they started to take my ornaments off. And so they were taking all of them from one side. And then I acted like I was asleep, so I rolled over so they could take from the other side. And they got afraid and they ran away. And when Dhanurdas heard that, he became so angry. And he started chastising his wife. And the brahmacharis who were outside the window watching, they thought, yes, just see, Guru Maharaj is right, this fellow's just an attached fellow. See how upset he is now that his wife lost the jewelry. Ramanuja became upset and started chastising her, not because she had given away her ornaments in that way, acting like she was asleep, but he chastised her. He said, why weren't you more expert? You should have been more expert. If you were more expert, you could have done it in such a way they could have taken all the ornaments. This was our opportunity to serve the Vaishnavas, to serve these great brahmacharis. We're just poor, rotten pocha grihastas. Pocha grihasta means rotten grihasta. These are great brahmacharis. They're great devotees. We had the opportunity to serve them, and you blew it. Stupid nonsense. And he started chastising her. And she hung her head down. You remember, she said, you're right, my dear husband. Please bless me that one day I can become free from illusion and I can actually become more expert and I can serve the Vaishnavas in a better way. Thank you very much for this lesson. So the brahmacharis were watching all that. Oh, And they went back to see Guru Maharaj, to see Ramanuja. So Ramanuja asked him, so what happened? And they told him everything. And then Ramanuja, he told them, he said, you're Brahmins. You come from Brahmin families, you're brahmacharis, you're very proud that you know Shastra, you're Vedantavit, you know the Vedanta very well. So you tell me, who was acting like a proper Brahmin? Huh? You guys yesterday, when you found your cloth a little bit shorter, or Dhanardas and his wife, when they found these extremely valuable jewels, gold jewels and real gems were stolen. And the disciples, they just hung their heads in shame. They said, Guru Maharaj, it was Dhanardas. He was actually acting like a Brahmin, and our behavior was very bad. And then Ramanuja told him, so don't try to judge devotees. Don't try to judge them based on their ashram, or just based on the fact that they're living with a wife, or they have so much money, or this or that. You can't see. Just be very simple and respect anyone who's chanting the holy name. Krishneti yashagiri tvam manasahaduyeta. That respect is the essence of friendship. And this is what Srimati Radharani is teaching us in this section from Gopal Campu. So I've gone a lot longer than I wanted. I want to thank all the devotees. Brajabanita is here, and Krishna Prema Kimavati Devi. I want to thank everybody who been listening, taking part in this. And I'd like to invite anybody, if you have any reflections at this time, please share them with us. And let's see, I think it's Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi. She said that this kind of positioning for position, wanting some position, is still going on. Binda Sundari in Denver, Hare Krishna. She's saying, such a refreshing, uplifting katha. Bhakti Krishna katha is such a refreshing thing, and it's so uplifting when we just keep Krishna in the center. And we can keep Krishna in the center by understanding that Krishna is in everyone's body. And we give respect to everybody, and we don't look down on anybody. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. If we see someone with bad character, then we just keep away from them, but we still give respect to them. Ananta Gauranga Prabhu has commented, thanks for the wonderful lecture. Nowadays, we can see a lack of respect and tolerance among devotees, especially on social media. Oh my God. When devotees discuss some sensitive issues, as you said, we are not the seers, and all relationships should be based on respect and not to be the judges. We came to Krishna consciousness looking for mercy, and we ended up judging everyone. You know, one thing, Ananta Gauranga Prabhu, that I've marked on social media is that sometimes we want to get the respect of being a great devotee, and maybe we don't have real deep realization, but one cheap, easy way to get respect is to learn some philosophy and to be able to quote Shastra. And so then sometimes we like to speak on some very, very esoteric subject matter and present that I understand this thing. Present that I understand the nature of the jiva is one such topic. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says a conditioned soul cannot understand that subject. It has to be something which comes by realization. Why even discuss such a thing in public? The only reason we do that is to show that I know this thing. But if I'm a conditioned soul, then I'm a theoretical speaker. And what's the value of that? What's the value of quarreling about such a thing and trying to judge some other devotee? Rather, we think, this devotee has this understanding, I have another understanding. My Gurudev spoke like this, and my understanding of what my Gurudev said is not the same as that person. But still, what is my understanding? It's like two little boys who are trying to understand how they came about, how they got there. And so they were talking. One was two brothers. One was 4 years old and the other was 5 years old. And they decided, we'll go ask mother and father. So the 4-year-old went to the mother and said, Mom, how did we get here? And the mother looks at the little boy and thinks, what am I going to tell this child about sex life and things? So the mother said, well, one day a big bird brought you and your brother in a bag. Oh, that's how we came. Meanwhile, the 5-year-old went to the father and said, Pita, how did we come here? And the father looked at the boy, thought the same thing the mother thought about the 4-year-old. And the father also made some story up. He said, one day I was digging a hole and I found you and your brother under a rock. Oh, that's how we came. And then the two brothers come back and start speaking to each other. And the one said, Dad said we come from under a rock. And the other says, Mom says we come from a bird. And they start quarreling. And one of them takes a big stone and hits the other one on the head and kills him. What is the meaning of it? It has no meaning. All that's happened is a terrible tragedy. One of the children has died. Nowadays, you grow up by the time, I don't know, these days, by the time they're 8 or 10 years old, or maybe earlier, they'll understand all those things. They'll have some realization, understanding about it naturally. And their quarrel has no meaning. So it has no meaning to have these kind of quarrels on social media about things that we don't understand to begin with, we haven't realized. So there's a few other comments. Brenda Sundari's commented, I feel uplifted hearing about simplicity. It's a sad thing that progress in spiritual life or scriptural learning can make us believe that we make us look down on others. It seems a natural tendency for the soul is to respect others, and it feels wonderful to be able to do so. I'm also thinking how it's important for oneself to behave in a way where we respect our own self enough to follow through with our commitments to ourselves, to Krishna, to our gurus, to the devotees, etc. We can create a culture of integrity and respect. Yeah, we want to be friends. We spoke about this in our session last week. But how can I be friends with someone else if I don't first be friends with myself? And being friends with myself means that I hear Krishna Katha. If I don't hear Krishna Katha, if I'm not serious about my spiritual life, how can I be friends with someone else? Brajabani to the comments that respect and giving your attention are two different things. Well, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj makes this comment, and I very much agree that avagya means to not give attention. And that avagya is a type of disrespect, according to the Skanda Purana. There's one shloka I could look up and share with you. When you walk into a room and you're friendly with everybody, you look at everybody and you say something to them, but I don't look at Brajabanita. I just ignore her. How do you feel? You feel hurt. Oh, they're paying attention to everybody else, but they're neglecting me. So giving attention is the essence of respect. We show our respect to Krishna by giving attention to the holy name. And that's the beginning of love. If we have some friendship with someone, the essence of that friendship is giving attention. And that's how we show respect. If you're married, you have to sit down and talk to your wife every day. You have to listen to her. You have to pay attention to her. If you don't do that, you're being disrespectful. Ananta Gauranga Prabhu, I think, made another comment too. The comments are disappearing here. Let's see. I don't see it. Oh, maybe it's here. Okay. Sarvi Bhavantu Sukhina. All glories to all the devotees. If we can't be respectful to the devotees, how can we be respectful to Krishna? How can we get bhakti? Krishna Premavadi Devi Dasi comments, there is still, and perhaps more, career hunting, quote, going on in our movement, sadly. It's going to be there. This is Krishna's way of tricking the demons. Just as Jiva Goswami makes a beautiful comment in the 10th canto about Putana, the verse describes that Putana came to Braj and was killing the babies in Braj. And Jiva Goswami says, my God, how do we understand that Putana is killing the babies of the Brijbasis? And he says, no, she wasn't. By Krishna's Maya potency, Putana couldn't recognize those devotees. And the only babies she was killing were the sons and daughters of the followers of Kamsa. So he says indirectly then Krishna was tricking Putana and engaging Putana in his service. So in a similar way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has done this. Srila Prabhupada has done this. He's engaged many Putanas in his service, and we give respect to those Putanas by their service, by their chanting of the holy name. And we neglect when we see they're wanting to do their career hunting. We don't take it very seriously any more than two children, they start quarreling about the toys. And someone says, they took away my little army man, they took away my little shovel that I used to dig in the sand, they're crying. And the parent doesn't get upset about that. It doesn't take it very seriously. We shouldn't also take seriously this career hunting. If we see they're chanting the holy name, then sooner or later they're going to grow up. And right now I just tolerate that. I just like children, we don't pay very much attention when they're quarreling over silly things. So, Subal Shamprabhu, nice to see you here today. And anybody else? Anybody else with any reflections or comments? Otherwise we'll go ahead and stop. Anything, Puji? Okay. Okay, Spasiba. Thank you all very much. Oh, just 1 second. Somebody's come here and they have some comment to make. I'm going to turn over the microphone to my better half, Krishna Kun. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
You can speak into the thing.
Okay. Hare Krishna. I really like this definition of simplicity means dependence on Krishna. You talked about Putana and the Bijbasis, and that's just such a succinct, like essence seeker kind of definition of simplicity. Thank you. And I also appreciated the point about how the Vaishnavas being expert in bhajan, Sangha, that it means not that they are playing good harmonium, it means that they are able to respect others. These two comments really stood out for me from today's Katha. I also really like to thank Vrinda Sundari for her comments. It was really beautiful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna, let me come back here properly. So, Krishna Premavati asks a very good question, very important question. How should we deal with being repeatedly disrespected by neophyte devotees? Well, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in one purport in the 11th canto, and Krishna Premavati, if you sent me a private message, I could remind me, I could send this to you if you want. The beautiful purport of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says that when we come to spiritual life, what happens, there's going to be some people who are going to criticize you, some envious people. And he says if you cannot tolerate their criticism, then you're going to fall down. And in other places he says that critic is actually our good friend. A critic is someone who helps us. And I'd like to share with you a couple of thoughts from the Mahabharata. This is Vidura speaking to Dhritarashtra. And Vidura is trying to tell Dhritarashtra, this is from the Udyoga Parva. And that Udyoga Parva is a beautiful collection of teachings from Vidura speaking to his blind brother, Dhritarashtra. And he's trying to convince him that we should be respectful to the Pandavas. And your boy, your Duryodhan, he's a badmash, he's a big rascal. So he says there are several very wise things. And he says, Akrosha parivadabhyam vihingsatya buddha buddhan vakta papam upadate ksamamoya vimuchate. That someone who is a very ignorant person, a Buddha means they has no buddhi, no brain. They try to hurt other people by criticizing them and backbiting them. But by doing that, vakta papam upadate, they take the sin, the faults that they see in someone else, those faults come to you. And the wise person, the Buddhan, kshamamano vimuchate, by forgiving that ignorant person, he's able to get rid of his previous karma. And then he goes on to say, in the 2 chapters later, Vidura to Dhritarashtra, similar point, akrushamano na kroshen manyor eva titikshataha akrostaram nidahati sukritam chashavindati. That someone who's being criticized shouldn't criticize someone back. Because the pain that you feel by being criticized, if you tolerate that, then whatever good qualities the critic has, they're going to come to you. So really, it's a natural thing. We will be criticized. But if we tolerate that, then our bad qualities will go to the critic. And the good qualities that the critic has will come to us. So Brajabanita is commenting. We want to hear from the Uttama devotees. We give them our attention. But respecting all. We also hear something too from the neophyte devotees or from the non-devotees. Brajabanita, she's an artist. She's a makeup artist. She works with the drama troupe. And to do that, you have to listen to the actors, you have to listen to the director, but and you have to be friends with them, to work with them. So you're giving them some attention, but it's not the same kind of attention. You're putting them in a certain category because they're non-devotees, and you may have some affection for them. You see Krishna's in their heart. You see they have good qualities. They're a good actor. They're a good director. And you give respect to that, but you don't give as much respect as you do to someone, even a neophyte devotee chanting Hare Krishna, even though sometimes the actor or the director may have better material qualities than the devotee does sometimes. But still, we respect the devotee because they're chanting Hare Krishna. And that's such an important thing, because we're giving respect to Krishna. But maybe I don't like to hang out with them, and maybe I might not be as close to friends with them in some ways as I might be with the actor or the director who's a non-devotee, because they're more intellectual and they have better qualities. So we're always looking for qualities, but at the same time, I necessarily give more respect to the devotee who's chanting. But if I see that they're a dharmadvaji, someone who's just acting like a devotee, then Srila Prabhupada in one purport, he says that we practice upeksha, we practice neglect of that person. I hope that helps, Brajabanita. And let's see, was there another comment here? Yeah. Krishna Kun she wanted to add something else. Let me turn the microphone back over to her in just one moment.
Actually, Brajabanita, I was also really thinking about your comment.
Hold on, the mic is right in your hand. Right here.
Thank you. Brajabanita, I was also really thinking about your comment and where it's coming from, so I'm really grateful to my husband that he addressed that. I was thinking of a different aspect of it, though. I was thinking how Srila Niranjan Maharaj often points out that we have a conception of respect that is not the Vaishnava conception, and he quotes Srila Jiva Goswami. He says that in the Sandarbhas, he explains that respect just means, disrespect means deliberately causing pain to others. So respect means that you deliberately avoid causing pain. So it's not that respect doesn't mean that you put him on a pedestal, it doesn't mean that you worship him. There's a difference between worship and respect. So I just wanted to mention that. I thought it would help to clarify things for you. And another point that I marked from my Patiskatha this morning was how judging others leads to not respecting them, and how dangerous this judgmental attitude is. And I have to honestly say that I'm guilty of this, and I'm begging the mercy of the Vaishnavas. But it's such a simple thing to understand the principle that I'm going to just repeat the example that I was given and that I observed myself. Somebody comes to Mangal Arati and they are 25 minutes late, and you think, oh, they got up late, what a nonsense. And the guy was working, the dear Vaishnava, was working all night up to Mangal Arati, and then he realized it's Mangal Arati because there's a festival coming, so they were decorating the altar all night, for example, or they were cooking all night, and they take a quick shower because they don't want to miss the first darshan of the day. And you think they slept in, and you judge them. I just wanted to repeat that. It really puts things into perspective.
Thank you, Krishna Kun. What a great comment. Thank you very much. Okay. So I want to thank everybody very much. This is how we create community, by coming together and having Krishna Katha and giving respect to devotees in that way. Thank you all very much. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhischa, Kripa Sindhu Bhyaeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnava.